Welcome back, everybody, into Bill's Chat. I am Josh McCarty. With me tonight, as always, is Luka. Luka, the final game of the regular season, the final game at Highmark. We know the playoff opponent. We don't know the time yet. It's all in the books. All we have left is the playoffs. How are you doing tonight?
I am doing great. We're not going to talk much about it, but it was a very nice send off to that stadium. Just a nice quality, simple, easygoing game. Never a doubt of result. Not that the result even truly mattered, honestly. Um, Obviously, it mattered a little bit if you cared about your matchup, whether you wanted to play the Jags or the Patriots, since we knew that the 5 seed was no longer possible. But it was just a quality game, a quality Sunday, a very relaxing Sunday. It was the first relaxing Sunday, Josh, in a very long time for myself. It was one where even during the 1 o'clock slate, as I was relaxing with the wife and kid and dog and everything like that, we were just having a grand old Sunday, enjoying the time together while football was on, but nothing truly mattered enough for me to be not caring about other things going on, helping with the baby, all this stuff. It was a quality day, Josh, but that's going to be the last stressful Sunday for hopefully the near future here because we are getting into the big games now.
So coming into today, there were 6 games that impacted what the Bills' playoff matchup would look like, and some of them were pretty easy to predict, either based on the Chargers agreeing to or announcing they're gonna start their backups or just the quality of the teams, i.e., the Titans taking on the Jaguars. Luka, when you look at those games, early it was Texans, Colts, Jaguars, Titans. Late it was Bills, Jets, obviously, Patriots, Dolphins, Chargers, and Broncos. And then if some things had worked out, then Ravens, Steelers would have impacted the Bills. That one is irrelevant, has not happened yet at time of this recording.
Mm-hmm.
Really, there was only one of those games that came down to the wire, and it was Texans and Colts. And the reason why it did is at halftime, the Texans were actually playing for a chance to win the AFC South, but they needed the Titans to beat the Jaguars. And at halftime, the Titans are down like 31-7, and the
Yeah.
Houston Texans decided to rest their guys, and it got really close. And we're not going to go through that game. We're really not going to spend too much time on Bills Jets. This is going to be like quick snips on Bills Jets. Bye bye Highmark, and it's going to be all hands on deck talking about the Jaguars in the playoffs. But very quickly, the end of that Colts Texans game came down to Kyami Fairburn field goal. What was your emotion level then? Did your heart tell you what you were rooting for as that kick was about to go through? Because mine did, and I was surprised by how I felt.
I was upset about it.
Okay.
I was massively, it's well documented. I know at least with you individually, but I'm sure I've said it to others out there in the space. I didn't fear the AFC North winner, regardless of who it is, to the level that some others may have. And I welcomed the idea of being above the Texans just in case it feels like the Texans, who of course have the number one defense in the league, if they were to go on a run, I would much rather have them. If that scenario were to play out, you win your games, they win their games, they're coming to your house, not you having to go to NRG. Also, fun fact is historically the worst stadium that our quarterback plays in the entire NFL. So just not the thing you want if you have to be in a must-win game. And I will say, as the game was progressing, you even mentioned, or you say it like the Texans were controlling. They weren't even controlling that well in the first
Mm-hmm.
half. It was a 20-17 game at halftime. Oh, no. If I remember, got a last second. So it was 23-17 at halftime. But even then, it had me thinking two things. One, as a football fan, maybe Riley Leonard should have just been playing from the start for the Colts because he could move the ball a little bit more and things like that. He was doing things you saw him do well at Notre Dame. Again, rookie, and Steichen probably just wanted a more experienced individual under center to maybe make that push instead. And Rivers gave it a good effort for being 44 years old. But Riley Leonard, to me, didn't look like he held him back any bit. And even if they were resting starters at any points, that's still a respectable defense and good defensive play calling that he was holding their own. But then as a Bills fan, I went down to the wire, and every time the Colts were driving, when they would end up taking the lead, it felt like every time at the end of a drive, whether it was by field goal or touchdown, I was all about it. I was hoping the Colts would pull it off, and then from there you really would have the opportunity to lock up that 5 seed, and to me have a much more rewarding path in the playoffs, in the sense of the team that I don't want to go to the most is also going to end up in the wild card. And that just ensures that if by any freak chance you meet each other in the playoffs together, which would have to be at the AFC Championship game, that would, well, I guess technically not have to be. There would be that one weird scenario that all 3 wild card teams were to win. So then you'd be hosting the Texans in the divisional in that world. But that to me was more advantageous than any other scenario. Not that I am disappointed with everything that took place, but I will say at that very, very moment when the Texans win with a walk-off field goal and end up, well, not walk-off, but last minute field goal, I was a little disappointed that the 5 seed was over, only because I did welcome the prospect of playing the Steelers or Ravens. As you mentioned, we're recording before even kickoff started for that game. That was kind of the thing I wanted more, because it just felt like a much better roadmap for this Bills team if they were to make a run.
So I'm on the opposite side, and I was surprised by it, but I was surprised how much I wanted that field goal to go through, and I do think that's probably because of the Lamar factor, and Derrick Henry, obviously.
Of course.
And, I think what it is with me is not fear of the Ravens, and I'll even throw the Patriots in this. I don't want the Bills' first round matchup to be a landmark moment for the other team. Jacksonville is just another team in the league that's good. And hey, may the best team win. If it was the Patriots, we talked about this on Wednesday, it felt like if the Bills lose that one, along with losing the division, then it's an entire offseason of hearing about how the Patriots have overtaken the Bills, and the Patriots are so much better, and Vrabel this and May that, and I just didn't want any part of it. And it would have been like such a massive moment for them. And then we know that Lamar's 0-2 against Josh Allen in the playoffs and what that would have meant. So I think I'm just ready for a as stress-free of a background of a game, and let's just see what these Jaguars have. So with that being said, we went into the late games and just not a lot of drama. You knew early that the Bills were not going to take this game overly seriously, which I was very happy about. We talked about this on Wednesday. None of these potential matchups were worth risking injuries to important players. The Bills did have a couple injuries today we will talk about that could be fairly significant for the playoffs. But ultimately, what happened was the Bills played Josh Allen for the token snap so he could get his start streak extended. Inactives today included guys like Greg Rousseau, Deion Dawkins. Dalton Kincaid played a handful of series, 3 series, I believe. My theory on that is they were just trying to knock the rust off. I think sometimes as human beings, we underrate just what it takes to play football at this level. It's not just about taking a hit and trying not to get hurt. It's about explosion every snap, ramping your body up to run full speed and then cut, and then running against other elite level athletes in conditions and training for that and lifting weights. And I think putting on pads and all that stuff, I think they wanted to have Dalton Kincaid get through that this week, not make the first time he does that next week when everything's on the line. And by all accounts, they survived that with no injuries to him. So yeah, I mean, if you're listening to this show, you already know the Bills beat the Jets. Trubisky looked great. The Jets looked dead in the water. It was never even close. Bills dominated, won the last game at the stadium. Broncos held serve against the Chargers backups, although that game stayed close a little longer than most people expected. Bo Nix, yeesh. When he's 2019 Josh Allen. When he's off, he's like, and then the Patriots were close with Miami up until about halftime, and then finally really pulled away. But the Dolphins were out there without Tua, without Waddle, without A-Chain. It was a mash unit for the Dolphins. So it sets up a 3-6 matchup with the Jaguars, and I think that's where our focus is going to be. But before we get there, Luka, 5 minutes. Red helmets, uniforms, last game at the stadium. What do you want to talk about?
Red, blue, red. Well, red, blue, white, red. And what I'm talking top to bottom, red helmet, blue jersey, white pants, red socks. I guess we'll add white shoes in there, although players can wear whatever they choose on the feet. So I will not include that in the uniform. I will say, I think you handled it well, both on the X machine, we'll call it, as well as during your halftime show. We are definitely documented to be where we thought it was a little bit silly how passionate people, it seemed like in the public, were about bringing the red helmets back. And for years, it was like, you had the blue and red game where Josh Allen even teased it. It was an alternate version, one that you would see like autographed at signings. But he wore that because obviously he's not getting touched during that practice, so you can wear whatever you please. And even during the practice, he would take it off after warmups. He'd take that off and put on the appropriate helmet just in case. I will say, when you see it in game action, when you saw just those classic red helmets out there, it flipped my script. It was just like, it wasn't even nostalgia driven though. I will say there was a piece of that. You're seeing like guys out there where at the point I was disappointed we didn't really have a number 80 out there to influence the game, because it's like, where's Eric Moulds when I want to see him? But you have 83 catching passes, and it's obviously has a look to it that drives the nostalgia machine. But it's a clean look that I noted to you. It's a very rare thing in the NFL. If you really look at all uniforms around the league, you either see primary color helmets with white or matching primary color uniforms, and or white or black helmet with primary color uniform, so on and so forth. You don't see that secondary color being the significant color of a helmet and a primary color uniform. You do not see that kind of contrast on the field as much as I feel like it would fit other teams. And you had certain teams, maybe like the Jags, who kind of did the two-tone helmets with that secondary color on the back being that goldish yellow, that didn't jive for a lot of individuals, including myself. But that's the Jags just trying to make splashes, and I respect going for it. And seeing it on the field, I am all about making it a much more primary dominant uniform combination that the Bills will utilize moving forward, while the NFL is also loosening these uniform kind of regulations and allowing teams to introduce different combinations, more uniforms overall that they can select from, whatever you want to call it. That it was quite a beautiful sight during the game, and made the game. I will say this, we made fun of it during our schedule release as well, that it's like, of course they would do it the week 18 game where we know Josh Allen's going to go out there, take one snap, jog off. We're not going to see Josh Allen play in that helmet. We're just going to see Mitch Trubisky joking around. It was a joke that we made during that episode. Go back and listen. It made a game that didn't need to be watched for the most part more enjoyable. And I genuinely believe the uniform played a massive part of that. I think that, with it being the farewell and all of that tied in and this and that, I think it was all classed by the Bills and how they handled this situation. Regardless if the Bills were a home playoff team, they were doing this game, and I would have imagined they would have handled this game in the same or similar manner, because it's unpredictable what would come in the playoffs, that you wouldn't be able to dictate what's the last game. So you'd probably ceremoniously make this the final game at Highmark. With the coins, those would have probably still been handed out, so on and so forth. That all class and the uniforms, they need to be a thing that comes back even with the new stadium. Josh, I am a big fan, and I've absolutely come around on the red helmets and Red Sox. I want to make sure I highlight Red Sox. When you see that red sock there, it looks clean, it's bold, the contrast, even for a colorblind person like myself, Josh, I love it.
Yeah, it was really sharp. And I one of my pet peeves, I think more so during the drought, was I feel like a big section of Bills fans are a little too nostalgic about the past. And I get it. Like but I just feel like they were holding on too strongly to the Super Bowl run of 90 to 94. And I'm thinking about Jim Kelly on the sidelines yelling at LaShawn McCoy about how he handled himself during a national anthem, and all the times we'd see Kelly and Thurman on the sidelines. And it was cool, but it was also like, I don't know, you turn on a 49ers game, do you see Joe Montana there? You turn on the Giants game, is LT out there? I don't know. It just, there was a part of it that always felt like we can't really move on until we move on. But I don't know that I necessarily feel that way super strongly, because I do love the attachment this town has to that group of Bills. And a lot of them were in person today. Surprisingly, Bruce Smith wasn't. Hopefully there's nothing going on there. But I always thought that maybe they romanticized the red helmets too. Today was the first time I believe the red helmet look has been on display in a high definition TV situation, because High def came around, I want to say in like 2002, and the Bills did away with the red helmets in 2021. So seeing them today in 4K, high def, whatever you have, it was holy cow. I mean, it just absolutely popped. It was a beautiful thing. Luka, I wasn't overly emotional about the stadium. I guess I was emotionally prepared for it. I'm excited about what the new stadium will bring. I also do wonder if maybe like part of that is masked by the fact that the season isn't over. We don't know how this season's going to go. And if the Bills say win the Super Bowl, I expect there will be a massive parade that ends up at the stadium as like a final party resting place for that Super Bowl parade. So I don't know. Maybe once the season's over, maybe then it'll hit me more about wow, the stadium really is done. How did you feel as this game was playing out?
I wonder, and as you read that, I was just or read that you didn't read anything. We don't write down anything.
We don't do
As
that.
you said that, it was one of those things where I wonder if just being as big of a fan as you are, but still the stadium's not in your backyard. I wonder if
Mhm.
that plays a little bit into it because I think the 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 ceremony of it all and the moment that was this game being the farewell game, I think was more so the broadcast did a great job with this. It was a communal event. And I think that stands to show what it was. I mean, they were highlighting how people were just tailgating and not without entry to the game. And, they just wanted to be part of the moment. That's always been a thing for what it's worth. There are people that celebrate and participate in the tailgates and don't end up in the stadium and they just watch on a TV outside, at their camper and or at their car, whatever it is. I mean, that has been a thing since I was a child. I'm sure it's been around since before I was even born. That has been a thing at this stadium. I don't believe that's everywhere, but I know it's happened around here. And the stadium has just been known as the concrete version of fandom for the locals, and like where it is when you're driving on the 219, where to look to see the lights poking up above the tree line, which now the new stadium just towers it, which is comical. As someone that's local, you'll just be like, wow, look at that thing compared to the other one. But I think I fully understand, and it's not a slight at you whatsoever. I think that you are probably just like any other out of town big fan, where it's like the one thing you probably don't have a connection to, like some locals would, is the actual structure being the stadium itself and what that value is to your fandom, and credit to people that it cares to. And I bet you there's tons that share that with you, where it's like you can understand, and I know you do. You understand the moment of what it is, but it doesn't strike you. And honestly, I will say, even as a local, I'm a little bit more excited about the new stadium. I look forward to the future in a more state of the art environment that will only benefit the product on the field and the players themselves, and probably even help recruitment. This isn't college. You're not literally recruiting high schoolers and stuff, but free agency, for all of intents and purposes, there's a recruitment factor to that. And if you want to bring in free agents and you want to be an advantageous place, number one, the most important thing is winning. Number two is a quarterback. You have to have a quarterback. Number three, they care about facilities. They care about the field. They care about where they will be spending their valuable time and hours putting in performances and what that means to them. Believe it or not, that matters. And for all of intents and purposes, you can love Highmark, you can love the Cap, you can love the Ralph as much as you do as fans. I can't imagine players enjoy that stadium nearly as much as fans do. I will just put it there. It's not, again, me disrespecting it. It's just, it had its time. It was state of the art, especially when it was built. It has stood the test of time, of course, and it will be missed dearly from a memory perspective. But I think everything they did to honor the day and honor the moment and honor the stadium was great. But I will say I very much look forward to the new day and new age with the new stadium and everything that's coming with it, because it will feel like a true ushering in. You know what it kind of has the feeling of, Josh, is similar to you love your Colts analogies. You go from the RCA Dome to the house that Peyton built with, the Lucas Oil Stadium. This kind of has a similar vibe without necessarily it's got similar-ish success. I can't pinpoint exactly when Peyton won the Super Bowl, obviously, that he did, and the RCA Dome closing to then make way for the Lucas Oil. I'm pretty sure he won it in the RCA still. But it's got that vibe where it's like, now you're going into Josh Allen Stadium. This is Allen's team. This is the new age Bills. That's what that's going to feel like. And I feel like that's just going to elevate things, which will be very, very nice for this team moving forward.
One last little piece of history. Some beat reporters are at McDermott's press conference, and he said that, I mean, you noticed this a little bit if you saw it on TV. McDermott had a blue hat on that had Bills in cursive on it. That was kind of neat. And he confirmed it was tribute to Marv Levy, who used to wear that hat as Bills coach. And, McDermott rarely misses that kind of stuff. He's very detail oriented. It does not surprise me that he would pay tribute to Marv Levy. Luka, this game was not without injury, and a couple could be somewhat monumental for this playoff matchup. One, the Bills lost their kicker. Matt Prater came back from a multiple week injury, had another quad injury. Does not sound like he will be able to help the Bills the rest of the way at this point. So they, less than ideal situation, are going to be going to the waiver wire free agency to try to find a kicker for the playoffs. Yikes. They did try Michael Badgley for a couple of weeks. That did not work out. The biggest names out there are Young Ho Koo, who was a very good kicker several years ago, but has been much more notoriously known for misses recently. Justin Tucker, who, at one point in time was maybe considered the best kicker in NFL history. I mean, he was up there with like Adam Vinatieri. I'm well aware of the off-field stuff that I think could be a non-starter for teams, but also he really fell off his last year in Baltimore. But I don't know what else is even out there. I honestly don't even know at this point, can the Bills still poach guys off of practice squads because Joshua Carty's out there, if that's a name you want to go after. But, you're really scraping the bottom of the barrel. Max Harrison was also hurt late in this game. And real quickly on Max Harrison, Luka, you know what? These are going to be two separate clips on YouTube, so I'm thinking about this separately. Matt Prater was lost in this game. That certainly is going to impact the Bills as they're going to have to scrape the bottom of the barrel for the playoffs. Luka, what can the Bills even do at this point at kicker, knowing that Bass isn't an option, Prater most likely isn't an option? You're down to names like Young Ho Koo, Justin Tucker, Joshua Carty. I don't even know.
You just gotta find the best available option you think is out there, and just you gotta roll with it. It's very unfortunate. It is a massive impact. It matters. It will come to play at some point in time. Whether it's positive or negative, time will tell. But it will make its impact known. Extra points, field goal opportunities, and/or you make play calling decisions based on your kicking situation. Maybe this will unfortunately or fortunately make the offensive play calling more aggressive with their decisions when it comes to your 4th and 3, 4th and 4s, maybe even your 4th and 5s, 4th and 6s, where it's like, hey, yeah, this could be a 49-yard attempt, 51-yard attempt. It should be, take your field goal on 4th and 6. What it is. But we got so-and-so back there kicking for us right now. We might just go for this. Maybe your 3rd down call on whatever it is, you're almost setting it up to hopefully make the 4th down call more manageable, reasonable, whatever you want to call it. It will play a factor. And the bottom line is, it sucks. It's unfortunate. I mean, Matt Prater, long time career. It sucks that it just, he wasn't able to have the leg to make it through the entire season. It's not his fault though. I mean, age is always undefeated. And on top of it all, it's like, hey, for the Bills, this isn't a crutch or anything, but at the same time, it's like, you just have to next man up mentality. This is where it truly is like, you got to find your best option you think is there, and you roll with it for what it is. And just hopefully coaching staff and McDermott and decision makers take it into account for what it is and what they believe is appropriate when it comes to play calling decisions, game management, all of that they have a kicker that they understand both what they are capable of and where their limitations are and why they were in the position that they were in the first place, aka not one of the 32 ones having a job when the season started. So, or even we'll call it one of the top 40 options out there in the world of kickers, because of course the Bills are not the only ones to deal with kicker issues, whether it was injuries and or just bad kicking. So it sucks to have it going into the playoffs, but at the end of the day, you just got to do the best thing you can, not let it don't dwell on it. Don't let it kind of be in the back of your head and affect you in a negative impact where you're worried about kicking all the time. Just make sure you understand the limitations and capabilities of whoever it is you're asking to take over now, and make your decisions accordingly as best as you can. That's all you can do. You have to make this playoff run. Luckily for you, as of right now, Josh Allen's still under center and doing his thing. So, yeah.
All right. So I've done a little digging. It's harder than you think to find available place kickers. The Bills signed Michael Badgley on middle of December. That week, they worked out 2 kickers, Michael Badgley and Matthew Wright. Matthew Wright has been in the league since 2020. He is a career 88% field goal kicker. It looks like he's made all of his field goals this season. 3 different teams. 5 for 5, including 4 for the Texans, and 1 for the Titans. He didn't kick a field goal for the Commanders. Let's see, that he had none that were over 50 yards. He did have 3 that were over 40 to 49 yards. That to me is probably the most logical choice. They worked him out before. They clearly like him. He's a respectable name. He's kicked on 3 different teams in this. I think that's about as good as you can do at this point in time. Unless there's no way you can go back to Michael Badgley just because he has familiarity with the placeholder and the snapper, right, Luka? There's just no way.
Yeah, no, there's no way. You're not asking Ray Davis to kick your field goals either. So you just if there's someone you're comfortable with that you've looked at in any capacity that's available, you just go for it. I will say Matt Wright, for all of intents, he is a massive suitcase around the NFL. He has been, been in the league, although technically since 2019, I'm imagining that was an offseason 2019 signed by the Steelers. Then he was with the Vipers, with the USFL, then back to the Steelers, Lions, Jags, Chiefs, Steelers, Chiefs, Panthers, Niners, Falcons, Patriots, Panthers. Like, I can keep going. It's honestly hilarious. Not trying to make fun of the guy, but you look at his career history and it is just, oh my God, he has been around. He is a suitcase. So, if that's the best thing you got at this moment in time. I mean, you mentioned this season alone, he kicked for the Texans, Commanders, and Titans. His last stint being with those Texans. If kicking went well for him in that case, where it's like you have a little bit of game film there, as you mentioned, it was 4 for 4 on field goals attempted and 2 for 2 on extra points with the Texans in those 2 games that he was called in there due to the Fairburn injury. What more can you ask for at this moment in time when you're dealing with a crisis of kicker going into the playoffs?
I've learned a lot about Matthew Wright in the last 2 minutes. And one thing I will tell you is, unlike the guy who he could be replacing, he has never missed an extra point in his career.
Oh,
that
not
I mean, after what they just saw with Badgley, I think, to your point earlier, I think if anything, this is going to skew the Bills toward more like, hey, it's 4th and 2 in field goal range. We're just going to go ahead and go for it, which probably helps the Bills out in the playoffs, if we're being honest. His job might simply be make the easy, makeable field goals, make your extra points, and kick the ball off, not out of bounds. And if you earn more trust than that, we'll give you more rope. But we're not going to let the game come down to you. And I would bet Matthew Wright's the Bills kicker in Jacksonville next week. Speaking of Jacksonville, that's what we call a transition. Oh, wait a minute. Max Harrison. Max Harrison went down with an apparent ankle injury, limped off. Thigh doctor on Twitter suggested the way it looked, he'd be surprised if he played this week. I saw a lot of folks upset that he was on the field, but you get to a point where, you're only allowed to have so many guys up, and they had all their guys on inactives. And unless you want to start getting goofy, I know a couple years back, the Bills had Isaiah McKenzie playing corner in a late season game just to protect some cornerbacks. But, they had Jordan Hancock out there at cornerback. I guess you could put Sam Franklin, or if you want to get crazy, put Keon Coleman out there at corner. The game was certainly not in hand at that point. The game was in hand at that point. The Bills were not going to lose. It's an unfortunate injury, but it does look like they're at least going to go into their first playoff game without Max Harrison, which is not ideal. But the way Tre'Davious White has been playing, I don't know how much it really hurts the Bills, Luka.
It hurts. I will just, to this point, say I know there's frustration with the game management, and it's a classic hindsight kind of reflectionary reaction that people have where it's like, why is he in the game? The game is over. Yes. But as you said, you would had to have gotten very creative with what you're doing. And I just want to remind people, not that it explains everything, but Max Hairston missed a good chunk of the start of the season, and he is a rookie. And McDermott is viewing this game as an opportunity. He said it even during, I think it was the halftime, going into halftime interview, whatever it is. He's giving an opportunity for young guys to step up and continue to put in tape and get experience. And do you want your premium first round pick who where you're a little bit more thin at that position to get hurt? No. But is it a good opportunity for him to get experience and do things? Yes, absolutely. And up until that point, Max Hairston looked like he was great, fine, everything. And it just took a little bit of a freakish tackle to unfortunately put him in that position and do what it did. So it sucks. But I will say your sentiment about Trey White looking a little bit better right now. Let's not forget, of course, Christian Benford is still on this roster. It's like at the end of the day, if you believe Max Hairston injury is enough to truly ruin your life when it comes to the Bills having success in the postseason, I lean on in my head of it. That can't be the reason you lost a playoff game to the Jacksonville Jaguars or anyone. Max Hairston being hurt cannot be the reason it's all gone downhill. Like I love everything about him. I think he's going to be a great player for this team. I think him and Benford are the future duo of the secondary for this team in the near future for sure. And maybe if the finances can work for the long term. But right now, I think it's a knock to the secondary, but it is not the end all be all by far. I believe Trey White, Benford, and whoever else you ask to step up should be able to, and more than capable to do their job, hopefully, and do it at a level that will be okay. I will say Max Hairston having that little bit of extra gear to him will be the one thing you miss, but hopefully, knock on wood, if the Bills were to get past this wild card game and move on, hopefully that injury is not too severe where it's threatening multiple weeks down the road and we can get him back as the games get tighter and harder making the run.
So a little bit of bad news. You watching this game?
Yeah.
Steelers Ravens is going on. The Bills will not play either team in the first round, but James Cook comes into tonight's game with a 153-yard advantage on Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry has already chewed up 45 yards of that in the first 5 minutes of the game. So
yeah.
Basically
the first play of the game.
Thank you, Steelers. I don't care about the rushing title. I guess I would like to see it for Cook. It's important to him. I couldn't tell you who won the rushing title the last few years. I don't care. I want Cook to be healthy. If Derrick Henry gets the rushing title because he runs for 155 yards the last game of the season to get them to the playoffs, hat tip. We have a healthy James Cook, and I'm just fine with that. All right, Jacksonville Jaguars on the docket for the Bills next week, Luka. And if the Bills win, they will in all likelihood be going to Denver the next round unless the Chargers pull off the upset and beat the Patriots. We talked about this earlier in the week. The two most likely matchups were Jaguars and Patriots. I think you and I both agreed we would prefer the Jaguars. Here we are, sitting here with the Jaguars as a matchup. I know recency bias is a thing. I know that the Jaguars went out and absolutely stomped the Titans today. The Jaguars, I think recently, 3 weeks ago, went to Denver and beat a Broncos team that I think a lot of people were thinking very highly of. I have watched the Jaguars pretty closely. I, like you, have a setup in my house where I'm able to watch all the games. I've been impressed by the Jaguars. I really have. What I will tell you is up until that Denver game that they did win, that was impressive. I will say Denver is more of a roller coaster ride than you would think a number one seed would be. They had gotten fat on some bad teams. The Colts with Phillip Rivers. The Colts losing Daniel Jones and then bringing in Riley Leonard. The Jets, who we saw today not put up a fight against Mitch Trubisky. The Titans twice. The Cardinals, they won the game in overtime. So their last what you would call quality win was actually in week 10 against the Chargers, and they throttled the Chargers 35-6, but that was probably the first game the Chargers went into it without both of their offensive tackles, and boy, oh boy, did it show. The week before that, they did what the Bills did. They went to Houston and lost to Davis Mills. That's a long way of saying that I think It's possible we're overrating this team. My read on the Jaguars is this, Luka. I think they're pretty good at almost everything. I don't know what they're great at. I think Trevor Lawrence is a pretty good quarterback and on his best day can maybe go punch for punch with the best guys, but I still think even on his best day, I don't know that he's up to going punch for punch with Allen on his best day. I think their receivers are good, not great. I would have said differently prior to the season about Brian Thomas Jr. I thought he was going to be in the same category as Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase after last year. It has gone very south very fast for him to the point where Jacoby Myers is now the go-to in that offense. I think I think Travis Etienne is good, not great. I think he's a fine player. I don't think he's great. I think their defense is very good against the run and pretty average against the pass. So at the end of the day, they might be the most solid team in the AFC playoffs, but I don't know what is their superpower.
The Jaguars are everything I hate in draft prospects. When you're a good, not great at everything, but you don't have that one special thing to you that gets you over the top. It's like you're solid. You're a B grade at, pretty much everything you could possibly ask for. But like, what are you really good at? What are you special at? What is that X factor ability you have that can kick in and be that extra gear? And it just doesn't really exist. I will say on the comment of Brian Thomas Jr., I think that's more of a Shane Waldron problem. Just going to shout it out for what it is. When you have Shane Waldron on your staff as your passing game coordinator, you don't generally find great success in the passing game. I don't know how this guy still gets a job as a passing game coordinator and such, but the NFL is a boys club sometimes with certain people. So I think the proof is in the pudding when it comes to Shane Waldron. Just look at his long history in receivers that somehow got magically better the year after he left. I'll just say JSN. JSN is the latest person here. If you enjoyed JSN this season and see everything he did in the passing game, just know that last year he had Shane Waldron. He left to go to the Jags, and JSN basically said, "Don't let the door hit you on the ass on the way out." So I digress on that point. The Jags are a team that the reason I welcomed it is the Bills can't go up against someone that can continuously punch them in the mouth with something that's exceptional over and over again. Number one pass D that's shut down everything. A run game that they can absolutely pound into your face to the end of time. A elite passer and receiving core that can, if they want to drop back and hit it 60 times, they could probably pass for 500 plus yards on you if they choose to. I don't look at the Jags as capable of doing any of that. I think their defense is fine and respectable. I don't fear the secondary on them, and I don't fear the front seven when it comes to being able to apply consistent pressure to the Bills. I look at the Jags offensively, Trevor Lawrence, the golden child, the prince who was promised coming into the league, it feels like it's I think he's solid. I think he was destined to be like that classic C tier, B tier quarterback, depending on the week. He moves fine, not great. He throws it fine. Again, he can have his ups and downs though. I think intellectually he understands the game, but I also think he misses a lot. He's definitely someone I will say too, that I look at as someone that a Sean McDermott level, defensive mind can probably isolate things and create confusion where it could make a bad day for a Trevor Lawrence in this league. And the receiving weapons, you highlighted them. Brian Thomas Jr., I already talked about. Jacoby Myers has been great for them since the trade deadline. But when Jacoby Myers coming in is all of a sudden now your most marquee guy, or Parker Washington, who's been great for them as well. But those are the guys you're threatened with. I would like to believe that the secondary is capable of handling things okay. And then the one big weakness that everyone talks about when it comes to the Bills defense, especially in the first half, is they can't stop a nosebleed when it comes to the run game. And it's like Trevor Etienne is not a guy that strikes fear in me whatsoever. And then the other individual is a rookie out of Vatech that is going to be the next individual up when it comes to beating you up in Tootin. It's like those guys are solid. They do the job that they're asked of decently, but they're not your elite runner that would strike fear in a defense in my eyes, where I feel like this is the kind of game where toe to toe, matchup, if you're the Bills, the message that week, which I imagine it always is anyways, is do your job. As long as the Bills show up and do their job and take this seriously, which I would like to believe they will in a playoff game, I would favor the Bills because at least the Bills have X factors, and they have two of them, and they both stand in the secondary on offense. It is Josh Allen and it is James Cook. When those are the two best players in this game and they're both on your side, that is why I give the tip of the scale to the Bills. And that's also why the Bills, I mean, obviously mainly Josh Allen is the reason for it. The Bills are going to be favored going into this game. And even at -1.5, currently where the line has opened up, I would like to believe that that could even move based on money and tickets coming in, where it wouldn't surprise me whatsoever if that moves a whole point and a half, that by kickoff it's Bills -2.5 or 3, just because it feels too short of a line to give Josh Allen in a playoff game when it truly is a tournament that all eyes nationally are going to be like, all right, Josh, you don't have Mahomes. You don't have Burrow. You maybe, as we're sitting here, you listening, you will already know, you maybe don't have Lamar in the tournament. Like, this is your tournament. I mean, obviously, as where we sit right now, it's halfway through the first quarter and it's already Baltimore 7-0, but I digress. This is your tournament if you're Josh Allen to the national. And that will be heard in the locker room. That, you know, it's not like they don't go online, they don't watch TV, whatever. But I would like to believe that the Bills at least have that X factor capability to them that this Jags roster just doesn't. And that's why both of us really liked this matchup overall, where it's like the Jags are decent, they're solid, they deserve where they're at. They've had some good wins down the line, but they've also really, I mean, they, just like the Patriots, just like the Panthers, just like all these other, although the Panthers still only, you know, managed 8 wins, but they all had 4th place schedules. And, you know, your tests were limited. So now when you're going to have your true first big test being a playoff game, this is where the rubber's going to meet the road. And I'm sure Trevor Lawrence and Liam Cohen, they are not thrilled about having Sean McDermott and Josh Allen, two of the most experienced playoff people in the NFL right now, come into their house for their first playoff game together.
Yeah, we talked about it always from the Bills' perspective, who you'd rather play. If you're a team that just won your division, it feels like a worst case scenario draw to get Josh Allen and the Bills coming to town. I mean, I know Houston Texans and CJ Stroud and that defense are not cake, and the Chargers are good, but that offensive line is just such a mess. That does feel like the worst draw for the Jaguars. As this week goes on, as we put out more content, as we get toward that Wednesday live show, I think I'll have a better feel for how I feel about this game and what the true matchups are. But early right in the week, I love it. I love the matchup. Like, who knows? By Wednesday, we'll know if any players got banged up in this game of any significance beyond Max Harrison and Matt Prater. McDermott did say in his press conference that it's too early to tell if Matt Prater is going to be able to kick this week or not. So maybe a glimmer of hope there. But it does feel like the Bills will be looking for a kicker. We have coaching news. The Falcons have fired Raheem Morris. That's a coach that beat the Bills this year. That's unfortunate. But when you lose to the Jets and that's what keeps you out of the playoffs, it's hard to justify not keeping your job. All right. Let's talk about the NFC. We're a long way from the Super Bowl, but when you look at it, the 1 seed is the Seahawks, and then from there, it's 2 seed Bears, 3 seed Eagles, who we saw last week, 4 seed Panthers, who the Bills had no trouble with, 5 seed Rams, 6 seed is the 49ers, and 7 seed is the Green Bay Packers. If the Bills pull off this run of going on 3 straight road games and getting to the Super Bowl, which NFC team do you fear the most?
Whew. Man, that's a tough one. I would honestly have to go with, there's 2 teams. I will say there's 2 teams that I highlight in my head. And there's the defending Super Bowl champs in the Eagles. I will say they're not number 1, but I can't not give them I would still be, take week 17 away. I'm not even looking at it as a credible reason to be fearful of them. Just in general, you look at the Eagles and they check all the boxes on what you need to do to dominate a Bills team if you can. That is concerning, but I'm going to go with the Rams, man. You look at that Rams team. One, they fit well against the Bills, and two, you're going up against Sean McVay, where it's like there is nothing I worry about more than going up against a guy like Sean McVay, who feels like he has like 40 different playbooks just sitting on a shelf behind him. And he's like, let's dust off number 26 today and this week. And we're going to learn this one, guys. And it's got 200 different plays. I mean, there's the story of Baker Mayfield coming in and starting within 48 hours. And they worked on, whatever plays that it was on a wristband. Sean McVay then in turn in that start for Baker Mayfield called 0 of those plays because he just has a call sheet and a Rolodex time, age showing Rolodex in his head of just a billion different plays. He's like, run this, blah, 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 do this. That kind of mentality and that dog mentality that there is of McVay is just someone that I cannot look past. Honorable mention goes to the Seahawks just because I think their defense is as real as it gets, and somehow it just doesn't get acknowledged as much as it does. Incredible job up there. I mean, I was disrespectful to the Seahawks going into the season, and I think that was just me looking at their offense and going, I just don't see it. And what I didn't do is look at a guy like Emanwari, who I loved going into the draft, just a freak athlete. He's been significant for them. Their secondary as a whole has just been dynamite. And then the front seven is great. That defense is so well-rounded and can do everything you could possibly ask that it is scary. But I would say their offense still doesn't strike fear in me at all. If I was a betting man in big moments, I will always bet that Sam Darnold will turn into that pumpkin we all know he can be. And I would also like to believe in a matchup against the Seahawks, if the Bills were to somehow make a magic road run to that Super Bowl game and they were playing against the Seahawks, you cannot, for the love of God, be losing to Sam Darnold and call it, coming up short because Sam Darnold, stood in your way. That's criminal.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on both fronts. I'm with you on the Rams. And I think it's because the one advantage the Bills are going to have over almost every team they run into in this playoff field is they're going to have a massive advantage at quarterback, both in how they rank in the league and in playoff experience. So, like, you might like Drake May as much as Josh Allen. I would argue that point, but he's in the MVP conversation. He might win the MVP. So if you wanted to say he's in the same class as Josh Allen, I think you could make that argument, but his next playoff game will be his first one. And then after that, in the AFC, you're looking at Bo Nix. Okay, Lamar Jackson is a different conversation. What version of Lamar Jackson are we getting? Are we getting vintage Lamar Jackson? Because that changes the entire landscape of everything. CJ Stroud has regressed badly since his rookie year. Aaron Rodgers is a shell of himself if he makes it. Justin Herbert has no protection on that offensive line, and I don't think you could say that he's in the same class as Josh Allen, obviously. And from there, we've Trevor Lawrence. And then on the NFC side, all due respect to Jalen Hurts, I don't put him there, although he does play his best in the big games. So I'm with you, like they're the second team. But that's where the Seahawks kind of lose me because they have a great roster. I love their defense. I love their skill players. But ultimately, it's Sam Darnold against Josh Allen, whom I put my money on in that situation. But Matt Stafford is a guy that has a Super Bowl ring, might have an MVP, not afraid of anything. And you mentioned they might have a quarterback that's on the level of Josh Allen. They have a play caller who's better than any play caller the Bills had. McDermott had no answers for the Rams offense last season, and that's when they didn't have Devontae Adams. And the Rams have a much better defense than the Bills, although the Bills' defense since Thanksgiving ranks up there pretty highly. So I am very interested in seeing the Rams get eliminated from this tournament as soon as possible, as long as the Bills are still alive, because they are the team that I think scares me the most, with the Eagles right there. Would not be afraid of the Bears, would not be afraid of the Packers or the Niners. Although I do respect all those teams. Okay, Luka, this is going to be tricky. Favorite segment of the week, last time this regular season, game balls and game checks for the Bills' victory over the Jets today. Who gets your game ball?
I think there's two candidates, and one is kind of I didn't even know if we were going to do this segment, to be honest. So I'm doing this completely.
I almost forgot. Almost.
There's two candidates, and one feels kind of like a cop out to our rule, but it's deserved. It's very, very deserved. Mitch Trubisky gets my game ball. Look, it's at the end of the day, if you are asked to play a meaningless game, just make the most of it, right? no one's going to fault you if you go out and have a stinker. They're just going to be like, well, that's why you're Mitch Trubisky and you're a backup. And this is why you can no longer do anything else in the NFL. You were even given a second chance. It went horribly with Pittsburgh. You are now Josh Allen's buddy being a backup. And you probably do a great job week in, week out, being the backup quarterback, being in that room, being with Josh, being a support system, whatever it is, seeing things on the sideline, relaying it to Josh, blah, blah, blah. But this is your opportunity to at least show you're capable of running this offense. This is your opportunity against a bad defense, but this is your opportunity to at least show, hey, you're still worthy of a paycheck. And guess what, Mitch? Hats off to you. You are still worthy of a paycheck. I value you as a backup quarterback for the Bills. You could even be a career Bills backup as long as Josh Allen's here. Honestly, it feels like the appropriate thing. I think there's one other individual, and I'm sure you'll name him unless there's someone else I'm not thinking of off the top of my head. But for me, Mitch Trubisky, easy choice, game ball. Proud of you, buddy. You showed up in we'll call it the Matt Flynn game, but you won't get the Matt Flynn contract following it. But proud of you anyways.
There's a couple guys I'm going to call out as honorable mentions before I get to my pick. I'm going to go with Ty Johnson as an honorable mention. 13 for 36, not an amazing stat line, but the cool thing was, and the announcers were talking about all game, he was 2 touchdowns away from a $250,000 bonus. You love to see guys hit their incentives. That's not a little amount of money. I know these guys are professional athletes, but congratulations to him. You love to see that. I do like what I saw today out of Gabe Davis. He made some contested catches. I did have that really nice touchdown.
Yeah.
Gabe Davis, 5 for 41 and a touchdown, but ultimately there's only one choice here. It's got to be Ray Davis. 21 carries, 151 yards, 7.2 yards per carry, and then he added 2 for 23 and a touchdown in the air. Luka, this was a guy that you and I were ready to give away at the trade deadline. Just for the opportunity to bring Frank Gore up from the practice squad and see if he could offer anything. We were like, every time James Cook steps off the field, it's like a giveaway down. And then something clicked when he was, I want to say relegated, but moved into that kick returner spot. Not only did he add a lot of explosion to that role, but it's like it gave him his swagger back. And as a runner, he's running with a lot more confidence now, and you can see that. I get that he's running against the Jets backups who were just completely running for the bus today. I hear that, but I like a lot of what I've seen from Ray Davis, and he feels like a player who has a real chance to help the Bills if they are going to make this playoff run, both on special teams and on offense. So Ray Davis gets my game ball. Luka, who gets your game check for the Bills' victory today?
God, game check. Oh man, I honestly am trying to sit here and think who could even potentially. It almost feels unfair to give a game check award to anyone. My game check award goes to Josh Allen. You didn't do enough to get your check.
There you go. He played who's going to be my pick, so you can have him.
No, I wasn't going to do that. Honestly, I'm trying to go through it all. I can't think of anyone, to be honest. So you know what? I will take the layup here, and I'll just make you think on it. Josh Allen, you took one snap, you waved to the crowd, you went to the sideline, and you got paid a lot of money to do that. This is not a shot at you, Josh, but hey, on a week where it is very difficult to highlight anyone in a basically meaningless game when they were asked to just kind of play it out, there wasn't anyone that did anything stupid. So, I mean, TJ Sanders had that one dumb penalty in the red zone that basically led to the only touchdown and points for the Jets. But at the same time, he got his first career sack. Good for him. It's like, it's so hard to pinpoint that. Yeah, I'm just going to take Josh Allen as the low hanging fruit and move on because it's not even a shot to him. It's just, it shows the little significance the game both had. And then also all the depth guys who did play and were asked to step up and do everything. It's not like any of them were highlighted as, oh, is this guy even worthy to be on the roster next year? Right.
One was.
Well, okay. But yeah, I'll let you see, maybe you want to call him out in this segment. So Josh Allen, hand in your check. That would be very nice if you turned it over to me.
Okay. Well, I actually missed a Game Ball Award winner. 1 second here. I'm typing something in here. Not Game Ball Award winner. One guy that I thought really did pop was Fedarian Mathis. I thought his name was called several times today. I think he plays with a lot of juice. I think he's a guy that's going to help the Bills out. I was going to go with Mitch Wisniewski. Just as like another layup. You've done that several times when the Bills don't punt, but he did come in and like handle kickoffs the rest of the game.
Yep.
And this is probably the only time we'll ever give Josh Allen a game check too, so that's pretty cool. But I'm going to go with Matthew Judon because there was a handful of people out there, Luka, that were excited when the Bills claimed him. I was like, why not? I mean, everything you've seen from him is he's toast. And then today, he had Brady Cook in the open field.
Yeah.
And looked like me trying to tackle Brady Cook.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to the stat line and I'm thinking, did Matthew Judon, he was on the field a lot, not a single tackle.
Yep.
I think you can safely say he's going to revert right back to that old practice squad. And barring a rash of injuries that might even eliminate Shaq Lawson from the equation, I don't think old Matthew Judon is going to factor into much for these Buffalo Bills going forward. That was something.
Hey, at least he got to wear his red sleeves again.
Yeah, there you go. If he goes home to his wife, I'm assuming he's married. He's like, I don't know if I should keep playing or not. She's going to look at him and say, Judon.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Ba-doom.
All right. Well, Luka, plenty of corny jokes left because the Bills did make the tournament, and that means we have a lot of content coming up this week. On Wednesday, we have Bills Chat Live, which is going to be, it's your opportunity to interact with us. We love it. It is going to be live this week. This past week was the one time all season it wasn't live just because of New Year's Eve. We'll be live. Come in, chat, hang out. Let us know how you're feeling about this Bills-Jags matchup. By then, we'll know if the Bills sign another kicker. We'll know what the early injury report looks like. We'll know about the update on guys like Matt Prater, Max Harrison, any other bumps and bruises that came out of this game. Then I'll be back on whatever day the Bills play at halftime for Bills Jaguars halftime. And I'm not even going to ask for it. I'm just going to, what I want, but every time I ask for it, it doesn't work out. So Bills Jaguars halftime, and then Luka and I will be back for Bills Chat post game, bright and early Monday morning, anywhere you can get your podcasts. And hope beyond hope, Luka, that isn't our last Bills Chat podcast of the season. But win, lose, or draw, we will be there. We are very experienced at this, and we will be there to either celebrate with you or cry and figure out where we go from here. But for tonight, the Bills finished with I'm so bad at the new numbers, 12-5 record.
Yes.
The 17-game season. It doesn't feel natural. 12-5 record with a win over the New York Jets. Close down Highmark Stadium, barring a run by the Bills and the Chargers in the playoffs that leads to a Chargers at Bills AFC Championship game, and close up shop in the regular season. For Luka, I am Josh McCarty. We will talk to you all next week on Bills Chat.